is going on, fellow dweebs and dweebettes? This is Michael here with Dweeb Reviews, and as always, joining me are Mitch.
I don't think dweeb's a masculine noun.
Okay, well, dweebs then. And I have Cole.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
All right, we just watched the 5th episode of Loki titled A Journey. Oh gosh, what was the
Journey
name?
into Mystery.
A Journey into Mystery, and what a mystery it was. A lot of things happened in this episode. A few things that we called from last week's episode, but a few things we didn't call from last week's episode, like the reincarnation of Asgard from a Loki, which was pretty cool. In any case, a lot of questions this episode. This was the penultimate episode, which means that next week is the final episode in the season. And there are still a lot of unanswered questions for the 6th episode of the season. We started off this episode kind of taking a look at the apocalyptic world and started off with Loki asking, what is this place? That was the big cliffhanger from the last episode. And in quick succession, we got the Void, Alioth, and now we are lunch, which was kind of one of the funnier lines of the episode, and they had to get up and going. Mitch, what did you think of this?
Sorry, guys. Hold on. Brief glitch. I liked this episode a lot. It really answered a lot of the questions that we had hanging from the previous episode. Not the question ultimately on who the timekeepers are, but it built really into that. Obviously, there was a little bit of, as I was watching the episode, kind of patting on the back because, wow, we did actually call a lot of this. I actually don't have any comic knowledge of Alioth, but I thought it was kind of funny. Yeah, at the end of our last episode, it's probably like some big Galactus type creature that's eating everybody. Yeah, we'll see. and then exactly what it was right away.
It was a Galactus type creature that was eating everybody.
But I can say,
guard dog.
But I can say, and we'll get to this in a little bit, I'm sure, that going into this final episode, I am really excited specifically for what it could mean for the MCU moving forward. I've talked about what I've hoped that this show would deliver, and on episode 5 of 6, I am super, super hyped because all signs are pointing to this series, delivering exactly what I wanted, So episode 5 ended for me on a really high point. I thought it was really cool how it dove into the different Loki characters and gave us a little bit of background on, where all of their divergence were, which is still kind of nonsense. Like, it was when alligator Loki ate the wrong cat that he diverged, not because he's an alligator, but okay.
See, I don't know if that was a real thing or if that was just a joke that he was poking fun at the alligator.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I don't know. I just
whether
know
it be a
that,
joke or not, that's the only info we got from the alligator.
I just know that this is clearly a multiverse, but they don't want to call it a multiverse, right? Mm-hmm. And we talked about that in the last episode. I'm not going to beat that again in this episode, but it was just, if you suspend disbelief, okay, it's not a multiverse. It's the same timeline, whatever. If you suspend disbelief, okay, then you can just carry through the show. But if you're nitpicky, like I am, being that, this is Dweeb Reviews and I am a dweeb,
it's like, how is this
I'm
not
sitting here like, no, this is a multiverse.
Yeah, this is absolutely a multiverse. Doesn't really seem like it's branched timelines how they were trying to pursue it before. Hey, quick question for you guys. So in the first part of the episode, there was a pan, and you got to see Mjolnir, and you also got to see, was that Ant-Man in a jar?
That was a little Thor trying to get out to his little Mjolnir hammer.
That was Thor.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. At least that's what I got.
Was that Chris Hemsworth Thor?
I mean, it was just like a little animated Thor trying to get out of this glass cage, it looked like.
Yeah, I was thinking that was like an homage to like something in the future for the Avengers, like Ant-Man gets trapped in a jar and then somehow gets transported onto a different, place, and then or he goes into the quantum realm inside of a jar and then ends up in this area. Like, I was thinking that was Ant-Man. I'm like, what the heck was? I had to rewind it and go back to see what that was.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't rewind it, but it definitely seemed like Thor trying to desperately get out. And the Mjolnir, that was about his size too. So it looked like he was trying
No,
to get
the
to his
the
hammer that was
Mjolnir
right
was
there.
the Mjolnir was regular sized. The,
Hmm.
the Mjolnir was regular sized, and then there was a jar with a little tiny person in it trying to like get their way out. So that's why I was thinking it was Ant-Man trapped in a jar. I thought the Mjolnir just happened to be there by happenstance, but maybe not.
I
Mitch,
I didn't
I
did you
even
thought it
see
was
that?
Thor.
notice. I didn't even notice the jar. I noticed the Mjolnir as they. You're talking about the scene where they climb down into their
Yeah,
subterranean
they pan
base,
Yes.
and
down.
it shows what's hidden in the land beneath.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear. I think it's pretty safe to say that was just, whatever they showed was just an Easter egg. It's not going to come back up in the next episode. But
No.
Well, not in the next episode, but it could come up later in the MCU. Is what I
no,
was
this is
thinking.
the end of time. Everything here doesn't count.
Exactly.
There's
It's the
cannibals.
end
There's
of time,
birds with
so
no heads. There's
it's.
birds with no
Yep.
heads
I
running
mean,
around.
that's true.
They're
But I was thinking
peacock
if it's
dodos.
the end of time and at some point in the Avengers, Ant-Man gets trapped inside of a jar and then sent to some unknown place or goes inside the quantum realm, maybe he ends up in the end of time and is trying to in that exact same location. Maybe that's
But
just foreshadowing.
it doesn't matter. It's because it's a variant anyway, so it's removed from whatever timeline.
What
it
is
was
a
from.
variant?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a multiverse being is what it is, what it actually is.
Yeah. That's what we're calling them.
Now we do get a closer look at Alioth in this episode, and they've kind of come to the conclusion, Sylvie, that he is in fact not a monster. Well, this is after Sylvie prunes herself with a temp card, Tempest. What is the thing called again? Is it a temp card?
The
In any
prune
case,
stick.
Those prune sticks, yeah.
well, yeah, but she grabs a hold of one of the
Mhm.
one of the temporal cards.
Yeah,
the
the
temp card.
iPad things, but
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she prunes herself.
herself.
You know, it was kind of funny because I was thinking that the head girl, I was a little shocked that she betrayed Sylvie because I was thinking that they were both going to be on the same side. And then the little computer thing was helping that girl out and trying to delay so that the guards could get there. I was a little shocked that happened.
Yeah, well, the
She's
first
in
quarter
on it,
of the
bro.
episode,
She's in on it.
I know. I was suspicious of her saying, "Is she the head of everything? Could she be the main bad guy?"
Well, she was talking to B13
yeah, and
by
then
herself.
then that scene came where she talked to the other TVA,
Yeah.
a rebel, and it looked like she was trying to get to the bottom of it as well, just in her own bureaucratic way.
Yeah, which leads Sylvie to prune herself, knowing that she would hopefully end up in the same place. So I guess that kind of defeats the theory of last week we kind of postulated that each person has their own place that they go to.
Well, let's clarify this real quick. Cole drew that out of thin air and was certain about it. I think you and I are both no, I don't think so.
If we're going to clarify it, let's clarify it. Yes, at first I threw that out there, but towards the end of our last session, I was like, I take that back. It's a whole prune universe or whatever.
But I think it is intriguing that everyone that gets pruned, it's mostly Loki's.
Yeah.
Which is...
They said that already, though.
Yeah, they kind of said that in the previous episodes. Most variants are Loki's. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense, but then we saw that whole... What kind of possible Nexus event could a entire battleship go through that they would have to be pruned all at once?
We don't know. We don't know their story, but it was pretty fortunate timing because they saw
maybe
that
the
missiles didn't
battleship's
do anything
not.
to them.
And maybe the battleship's not what hit the Nexus event. Maybe there was a Loki fish, and then it created a divergent timeline, and the battleship had to get wiped from the divergent timeline.
I guess that makes sense. Sure.
Either way, they had to go.
Either way, they had to go, and they did go. They went.
Because it was convenient to show that traditional weaponry doesn't work against Alioth. That's why.
Yeah.
That's true. That was a good plot device. So now that we know that Sylvie is there, and now that we know traditional arsenals do not work against this thing, what's the next best thing that we have?
Enchantment.
Enchantment. And luckily for us, Sylvie just happens to be an expert in enchantment.
The only Loki who's an expert in enchantment. It would
Right?
seem.
Like I feel like some of those Lokis had some pretty cool stuff going on.
Yeah, it was mostly
yeah.
illusion magic, though. It was kind of the same
Yeah.
as what our main Loki does, just on a much larger scale. I mean, it did seem that they were trying to put forth that classic Loki, the older one, was just Loki older. Like that's just
Yeah.
what Loki looks like older. That's
Yeah.
kind of what they made seem. They made it seem like young Loki is just Loki younger. But what the subtitles described as boastful Loki, which was the Thor looking one with the hammer, the black dude with the bald head.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't. If that's another multiverse Loki, I guess. I mean, they're all
Yeah.
multiverse Lokis, but
It's just a different version.
It's also that same thing we talked about. Like, is Sylvie a frost giant?
Yeah.
They haven't really clarified
I
for
mean,
us, right?
is the alligator a frost
Is
giant?
the alligator
Yeah.
a frost giant? Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really messed up that the TVA would show up to a puddle and just prune an alligator.
I did love the President Loki scene. That was fun.
That was cool. That was cool. That was a good one. And we do see somebody who makes a reappearance again in this episode, which I'm very grateful for because I loved his character, was Mobius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mobius comes back in this episode.
And that was another thing we called too.
Yeah.
I knew we hadn't seen the last of him. He was going to show up in that universe.
Yeah,
I
he
kind of
survived.
expected them to reveal him as a Loki.
Ooh, that would be
Well,
interesting.
I had the suspicion that the head honchos are a variant of Loki.
Just
that's-
all Lokis.
that
All,
the
just
timekeepers are
Lokis
all
everywhere.
Lokis?
Yeah.
Would
I
be
think the
funny.
whole, I
That's
think
just a
all
wild
the
guess right
TVA
there.
agents are Lokis. I think everyone that's been introduced into this universe is Loki.
This show's
Yeah.
called Loki, and literally every character is Loki.
Just literally every character is Loki.
You know what I
I
have a problem
still
with?
think that this big reveal, the timekeepers, is either just Immortus or it's the Council of Kangs, which is introducing Kang the Conqueror. Again, I mean, everything's pointing that way. The existence of Alioth hiding at the end of time, the fact that there is multiverses through multiple timelines, that's kind of Kang the Conqueror's whole shtick. He gets killed by the Avengers all the time. But Kang, Nathaniel Richards of the 30th century or whatever he is, has created a paradox of himself where he will always exist. So no matter what happens, the Avengers defeat him, he comes back. The Avengers defeat him, he comes back. There's always a different version, different time, different era existing Kang. Always. He is a paradoxical creature, and he cannot be eliminated. And that's one of the things that makes him such a cool character, and I'm really expecting him.
Wasn't that kind of Ultron's stick though too as well? He didn't the Avengers defeat and kill Ultron multiple times in the comics?
Yes, but not being
he just
paradoxical.
ingrained
He's
it-
just a
yeah.
program. So
Yeah.
Ingrained
Well,
himself in
essentially
the
it's the same
internet or
kind of
whatever.
thing. He can
But
always reproduce himself.
My only that would be awesome if it is the Conqueror, but the only problem with that is that they only have one episode to develop and explain that character. Like unless
Not
they
necessarily.
carry him over
I mean,
to the movies or other shows.
I mean, not necessarily, because who was the big villain in the MCU? It was Thanos. They didn't explain him until like movie 15. So
yeah, but
I feel
they
like,
had like 2 movies to explain his background.
yeah, but they can have multiple movies to explain Kang.
That's what I'm
but
saying.
we
Unless
did
they
see,
carry him over to
we
movies,
did see
they only have one
glimpses.
episode to
Yeah, we did
develop
see
a whole new character.
glimpses of Thanos though in like post-credit scenes from like other movies though, and maybe this is kind of like that. It's just like a post-credit scene, or not necessarily a post-credit scene, but it's going to be like function as a post-credit scene where you just see a little bit of him, get a little bit of story, and you're like, what? And then in the next
future villain,
next show, learn a little bit more.
So that is my theory. My theory is that we're going to get some sort of lead up here into what's happening behind the TVA and who runs the TVA. And I imagine that the show is going to end with the introduction of Kang, not explaining who he is, but just it'll either end with some sort of pathway for Kang to exist as a major villain, or some sort of just the beginning introduction of who this character is. There's a ton of different ways that they can do it. See, they can do it where Loki kills him, because like I said, he's always there. He always comes back. There's a million bajillion infinite numbers of him. So they can
That's
do it in
true.
so many different ways.
And that could be the final climactic scene of the series is Loki killing him or Sylvie killing him.
Yep.
And then, but it doesn't matter because he could just come back in another.
So
episode.
I'm not sure. I have a feeling that everything's been leading up. I have a feeling that this series is what will begin the introduction of him into the MCU as a major villain. I don't think they're going to solve him this series, no, but introduce him.
I think that'd be really cool. One other scene that we kind of glimpsed over that I thought was really cool was all the Lokis fighting each other down in the basement.
The coolest part is just that our Loki
powers.
is just kind of like tiptoeing. Okay, all right, I'm getting out of here.
Okay, it was really funny because you got the feeling that all the Lokis were backstabbing each other, which
and
is
knew each other. Yeah, they all knew each other.
They all knew each other. They all and
Sorry, guys, we're having a brief technical difficulty. Michael, can you say that one more time? You just temporarily froze just a little bit.
No problem. I was saying all the Lokis were backstabbing each other, and our Loki didn't even bat an eye at it because he's like, this is what Lokis do. Lokis backstab.
This is us.
This is and I honestly, I thought at one point, our Loki was gonna just stand up, and it looked like he was just gonna be like, "Everybody stop! We have a larger picture here. Everyone's backstabbing each other and blah blah blah." I thought he was gonna take leadership and kind of wrangle everybody in so that he could control everybody to fight against Alioth. But he did not do that. And so that was something that I feel like they could have done, but I guess they'd rather him do it by himself.
Well, he tried doing that with the smaller rescue group before that, right? And so it didn't take. And he's like, all right, so I'm not going to be able to convince a bunch of Lokis. Yeah. So he just had to do what he had to do. But he did convince the kid Loki and the older Loki. Yeah. And the kid Loki, he was the prince or king or whatever that was.
Yeah, he would have been the Prince of Asgard. He said he killed Thor, so he would have been the Prince of Asgard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then a little bit later, we do have, getting toward the end, we do have Sylvie kind of taking over Alioth, but couldn't do it 5 seconds earlier in order to save old Loki, who helped them so much.
Well, you're skipping over a crucial part, Michael, is that,
What's that?
Loki kind of learned to enchant himself.
He
Sylvie,
did.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's going to be, that's a good call. I'm wondering if that's going to be a new ability that, well, he kind of already had that ability. That's why I was kind of skeptical when I very first saw this, because he kind of had that ability, but he did it with the Tesseract. He did it with the Mind Stone.
Yeah, so it wasn't his own power.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't his ability to do it, but I was thinking I could have sworn I saw him do it somewhere else.
It is true to the comics, though. He has that ability in the comics. And, the thing is yeah, we saw it with the Tesseract before with Hawkeye. Yeah. But they haven't developed Loki in any of the movies. They introduce him in Thor, and then he's kind of a hero villain character in Thor 2, Thor 3, same thing, kind of like an anti-hero character. And we see the illusion magic, we see him conjure things, but they never sat down and say, hey, this is what Loki can do, which is why, if you remember, it's like episode 3 that you and I talk, and we're like, is he telekinetic? Because that building looks like it's fallen on him, and he catches it. Turns out he doesn't have the time stone, which was my theory at the time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess he's also super powerful telekinetic. We didn't know this. It's one of his powers. So them kind of and they did establish it. They had the conversation between Sylvie and Loki doesn't even recognize what the power of enchanting is. Ooh, what's that? But they could also have been like, oh yeah, I can enchant too. And, the only response we could have as audiences, I guess,
I guess they can do a bunch of things, because he did mention I guess we're not as powerful as we think.
No, he said, I think we're a lot more powerful than we think. And that's what he was talking about with classic Loki. That's fine. Them giving him this power, Sylvie teaching him this power, is a potential setup for what's going to happen in the next episode. It's another potential setup for whatever the future of Loki is moving forward. We'll probably talk about it more next episode, so I don't want to get into it too much. But, just because the way that film works, we already have some idea about some things that are going to happen in the MCU moving forward with like character development and actors. So this series is really interesting to the story of Loki and the character played by Tom Hiddleston, because we exist right now at this time where the MCU is ending all its existing storylines. It's starting new storylines, it's featuring new characters, and Tom Hiddleston, although he's not a main character, is probably the most major supporting character of the Avengers.
Yeah,
and
is he signed for any future
exactly.
movies?
Are they going to keep him on? Are they not? Does he die next episode in some sort of act of sacrifice for Sylvie? I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Sylvie or Loki needs to die in the next episode.
Yeah, definitely one of them. My guess is that it's going to be Hiddleston. I think they'll probably move forward with Sylvie.
I think so too.
Which is, I mean, she's super powerful.
I actually like the character and the actress. I think she's doing a really good job.
Yeah, I don't mind the character. I like the character too, but it's really hard to beat Hiddleston.
I like Tom Hiddleston.
Really good Loki. So she has big shoes to live up to. Anyway, toward the end, they are able to enchant the Alioth with the help of with the help of our Loki, who now has leveled up, gained a new ability, enchantment, right? I feel like it's just a video game.
Level 49.
Exactly. And then what is revealed but the castle from Wizard of Oz, where they're going to go see who the man behind the curtain is. They're really leaning hard into this Wizard of Oz thing. They even had a couple of friends along the way that constructed things. And
when that happened, I was like, they made it to Mordor.
They did. Exactly. So it'll be interesting. So I do have one question that it's the whole premise of the show. It's everything that Sylvie's fighting for, and everything that now Loki is fighting for, and everything that now Owen Wilson is fighting for. They want to burn the TVA down and set the universe free. They want to. They see themselves as martyrs almost, right? They want to save the universe, save the world. He even says at one point, Hiddleston says at one point, "Oh yeah, let's save the universe." And then she's like, "Don't be dramatic, but yeah, save the universe." Okay, my question is, why? Like, what's the plan? Like, you're going to kill this hierarchical structure, and then what? And then what's like why do they hate the TVA so much? It seems like all they do is try to help, maybe.
Well, we know why she hates the TVA.
Well, she has a good personal reason for hating the TVA.
Yeah,
and he does too. They're both
we kind of talked about this before about like motive and like what is Loki's end game, like, and we're never sure, and we're still not sure like what he's trying to do besides get to the bottom of who the timekeepers are.
I just don't know if it's a great plan, and I don't like take down the TVA for the sake of taking down the TVA. Doesn't sound like I don't think I got there with this show. I don't think they brought me to the point where I'm like, yeah, TVA needs to be taken down. I'm like, like why? Like why does the main person need to be killed? Like what is all this what is the reason for doing this? Because what ensues after that? Just all these bunch of random timelines where random things happen and people can pop in and out at different times and screw it up and then leave and everything. I don't know. I don't know. I just didn't get to the point where I'm like, yeah, they need to take down the TVA. I don't know. Am I alone on that?
I have kind of accepted that through the films of himself in the sacred timeline, through the conversation with classic Loki, and through the connection with Sylvie, our Loki has regained all the character progression that had developed in the mainline MCU films. Sorry guys, hold on.
Oh, looks like we lost Cole there for a sec.
That had developed with the MCU main film line that led into Endgame. Remember, it's in
Yeah.
Infinity War. I should say. Remember, it's in Infinity War that Loki sacrifices himself for his brother. The Loki as of Avengers 1 would not have done that.
No.
But, we did get to see this storyline progression, the ending of Asgard, the death of his father, the death of his mother, and we saw that it had some sort of emotional effect on him.
Sure.
Classic Loki shares his story with our Loki in this episode. And what does he say? He says that he tricked the Mad Titan and then fled and decided that, everything bad that was happening was because of him. Because remember, Thanos discovered Earth because of Loki. And he hid out on a planet in solitary. And they asked, what made you come out of solitary? And he says, I missed my family. I missed my brother.
Yeah.
And I think that through these conversations, Loki has, this is going to sound cheesy, gotten to know himself better.
Yeah.
And now we can safely say that this Loki is probably even further progressed into a hero
than the Loki
in
from
Infinity
Endgame.
War.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I agree with that. You know whose story would have been really cool to follow? The super evil Loki that became president.
Yes, President Loki.
I feel like that President Loki would have been a really cool story to follow.
But was he super evil? Because all the Lokis betrayed each other at the end.
I mean, that's a fair point. But like leader Loki that's like, I lead because people need to be, people need to be not free. Like
with the vote for Loki pin on his chest.
With a vote for Loki pin. Like the Loki from the first Avengers who wants to be, top dog, who needs to be worshipped, needs to be idled. That's a really fun Loki to have. And I realize you can't have that Loki over the course of an entire season because he's going to progress and you can't make a meaningful storyline. But that would have been a fun Loki to have an episode of.
Yeah.
Just someone, back in the day, throwback Loki that wanted to dominate and rule everything.
Perhaps, dude. Anyways, leading into this next episode, we talked about it. I know I'm super psyched. Are you kind of on the same page?
Dude, this series has been really, really great. I'm really, really enjoying these episodes. As much as I would enjoy any of the movies that came out. This series has been really, really good, really well written. It was a little slow there in the third episode, where all they did was spend the time on the planet and didn't really talk about very much. But with the exception of that, this thing's moving along. We're doing world building. We're doing character development. We're getting along here. Loki now has a love interest in Sylvie, which is himself, which is a classic, a narcissism. Amazing writer's tool that they have. But I'm super excited for the next episode. I want to see what I want to see the man behind. I do want to see the man behind the curtain. I'm interested in looking for, maybe it is Kang the Conqueror, and maybe it is like a Thanos situation at any given end credit where you just see, Thanos in his chair turning around, fine, I'll do it myself. It might be that type of situation, and I'd be completely okay with that.
Yeah, on one part of me says that the Timekeepers being King the Conqueror or the Council of Kings would be awesome. But, Cole hit a point that I think is valid when he said, that might be a lot to introduce at the very end of this episode. I would say my official prediction is the very end of the episode or an end credit scene has a reveal of Kang without explaining who he is.
No.
Or something that directly relates to Kang is real, he exists, and this is going to be something moving forward. For who the Timekeepers are, we'll see. We'll see, man.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be something along those lines as well. They intentionally they left the episode intentionally that they didn't see into the castle and whatnot. So I think the next episode is going to be spent trying to get into the castle, trying to get into the tower, trying to get past the guards, trying to, that whole situation, trying to do it in a smart, clever way. and then I think you're right. I think at the end of it, they'll vanquish whatever they need to vanquish, whatever they need to do in order to wrap up the series. They'll reveal whatever they need to reveal, and then they'll finally see who's at the very top of it. And I think that will happen at the very end.
Yeah.
And I think we'll just get, kind of like Thanos's little like 4 horsemen type of situation. I think there might be that type of thing in this next episode, so that there's some type of resolution that you hit the people, or maybe it's Kang's underling that is the one that orchestrated all this, and Kang is even more powerful than the one that orchestrated all of the TVA, to kind of build him up that way. Like kind of how in Guardians of the Galaxy it was Ronan was the one that and then it's revealed, okay, Ronan's not the big bad, Thanos is the big
bad. I'm thinking it'll be something along those lines too. I think you're nailing it. All right, so now at the conclusion of this episode, we're gonna hit the audience with our reviews. You want to lead it off
with the reviews of the episode? Yes.
What's your score? What do you think?
My score, this thing, it followed, it's been following, man. It's been tracking. We got a big reveal. They were able to get past the dog. And the way they framed it was good. It wasn't just this big bad monster that was destroying everything. I thought it was clever that they said, no, this is just a guard dog. He's guarding something. That's what's happening. And then I'm like, I didn't even think of that. That was a good call.
Yeah.
I'm giving this episode another 9. I think this is a solid. I think this was a solid. This was a transition episode, right? They started off. In the last episode he killed himself, and then you think he's going to get to where he's going, but there's an obstacle that he needs to get to before where he's going, and then they do that obstacle in this episode. Mm-hmm. So it was a transitional episode, but I still think it was a very good. I was looking forward to it. I didn't think it had any slow parts. I think it was great. I give it a 9.
I have to give credit where credit is due, and although there's still a lot I want to know from this show, and it could, however they end it, could be great, could potentially be very disappointing too. I would say from a penultimate episode, there's not really much more I could have wanted from this episode. Yeah. I thought it did a fantastic job of building up the suspense and excitement into what's going on next week. And that's why for me, this was a 10.
Yeah, look at that. I was probably being a little conservative with my 9. I'm going to give it a 9.5.
Okay. Yeah,
I'll give
there's
it a 9.5.
Not really much more I could have wanted.
Really,
I liked it.
The only reason being it's a 9.5, the only 0.5 I'm going to take away is that if they would have tried a little harder, then old Loki would still be alive.
But the sacrifice has meaning. But the
Michael.
Sacrifice has glorious purpose.
It has glorious purpose. All right, fair enough. 9.5 from me. I mean, you're right. I couldn't ask for more. The only thing is, I wish they would have gotten a little bit further along inside of the castle, because I know next week's episode is just going to be all about getting up to that tower.
Yeah.
So I wish they would have taken the first steps inside of the castle. To end it. That way I can know that next week's episode is going to be a little bit faster paced, because I think they're going to burn 15 minutes trying to get to the castle.
Maybe. We'll see, dude. We'll see. But
all right,
awesome, you guys. Awesome. Thank you for tuning in with us. Can't wait for next week. So excited. Come back.
Like, comment, subscribe down below. We did get a comment recently.
Oh, how nice.
Which was awesome. Continue commenting. We appreciate it. Let's keep it rolling. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you. Signing off.
Live long and may the force be with you.